create an exception for minors in the case of rape and incest. We are forcing birth on young girls, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds. 80% of Tennesseans support legalization of abortion with exceptions. This amendment is what the vast majority of Tennesseans want. Why are we answering to a lobbyist instead of to our constituents? These girls underage should be allowed to not be reminded daily of what happened to them. Some of them really not even understanding. Do we really want to be a state that forces children to carry pregnancies?
We've been hearing a lot about the state of Tennessee pushing a bunch of bills that go after and are attacking, drag queens, LGBTQ plus community. But don't forget about the fact they're also going after women and children as this anti-choice legislation is trying to get shoved through. Democratic representative there, Gloria Johnson, she's looking to fight back though, and looking for this amendment that would actually allow girls, children that have been victims of rape to then not have to carry their rapist's baby to term. But the Republicans in this same chamber don't really care about the lives of children, as they're gonna prove here.
22 weeks can be a viable pregnancy. For that reason, Mr. Speaker, I respectfully move this to the table.
The awareness of pregnancy in young children is not always known. I'm asking you to imagine that your child or your grandchild is raped tomorrow. Would you want that child to be forced to carry that pregnancy, a result of rape? Or would you want that child and their family to be offered compassionate, survivor-first focused care?
Ayes 74, 23 nays.
The ayes have it. The motion to adopt amendment number 3 is tabled.
Gloria gave all that information and they went no. So they tabled the amendment and said, no, we'd like for children to continue to be re-victimized over and over and over again while we celebrate. One of the folks who wrote the bill that Republicans were voting on, no, they didn't write it. His name is Will Brewer and he's of Tennessee Right to Life, which is this powerful lobbying group. He's got all of them on board. He bullies people, and anybody who disagrees with him, they come for them. He was standing out in the hallway, and someone from the Tennessee Holler who's doing this great work decided to ask him what he thinks, and you might not be surprised at his reaction.
You will. You mind talking about the ban with me real quick?
Not right now, thanks.
You don't want to talk about it?
Not right now, not till it passes.
Are you for this or against this version?
I'm gonna watch this, thanks.
Do you think little girls who are raped should be forced to carry to term, Will? Do you have any daughters, Will? Will, do you have any daughters? Can I ask if you have any daughters? Can you just answer that, Will? I have a daughter. And if she were raped, I would not. It's just gonna look bad that you're running away, dude. I was trying to have a conversation with you. Now you're just running away. You can't stand to talk about your bill. Do you have any daughters, Will? This is really gonna look bad, dude. You're not willing to talk to anybody, Will? You certainly have a lot to say in committee, dude. Can you just answer me if you have daughters, Will? If you have daughters, Will? Will, do you have daughters?
If Will has daughters, they'll get the care that they need. You can trust that. By the way, Will is shutting the hell up right now, but he was saying a lot in committee as that interviewer was asking. Really fast, Adrian. In public testimony and private meetings, Brewer, that same guy running, has said women should only be offered terminations if they're facing acute emergencies, such as when they enter an emergency room, quote, bleeding out, and suggested some complications can work themselves out without medical intervention, because Will knows what the hell he's talking about. Also speaking last week before the West Knoxville Republican Club, he also questioned the veracity of medical diagnoses involving what is known as lethal fetal anomalies. Here's what he said. Who's to say with any kind of certainty what a medically futile pregnancy is or a fatal fetal anomaly, which is some condition with the baby that will not allow it to live outside of the womb? Who's to say, he asks. My answer is the doctors that you're limiting from doing their damn job, Adrian.
It's just, it gets more disgusting by the day. The reality is that Tennessee is kind of a hotspot for killing pregnant women. They do have a lot of deaths in terms of maternal mortality. Like we had in 2020, there was almost 100 women in Tennessee that died during pregnancy or a year after, and nearly 90% of those deaths were deemed preventable. Also, at least a third of them were identified as also being a product of discrimination. Tennessee's health department is saying this, and yet you have members of legislature who are perfectly happy forcing maternal mortality rates on children. These aren't even women yet. They are children, and forcing them to give birth. What am I missing here? Because clearly it's not logic or even humanity.
It's hate. Well, you're not missing it, but that's definitely what's driving this entire thing. And I guess power and anything else this guy wants. By the way, you talked about the issues in Tennessee. Let's go to graphic 5 really fast. I promise I'll jump to these real quick because I want to tie this whole thing up because we're talking about rapists and children. And by the way, if a 12-year-old girl is forced to have a baby, her body structure generally isn't ready for that type of stuff. And guess what it does? Because, science in reality says it destroys many parts of her body, and then many times makes it impossible for her to have babies later in the future when she might want to, as they're asking for more babies. But how about those rapists? Because they're coming after doctors, they're coming after children, they're coming after women. What are they doing about the rapists? For years, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has worked to resolve a backlog of untested rape kits and have left thousands of sexual assault cases unsolved. What does that do? Local law enforcement and booking agencies across that state have failed to collect potentially tens of thousands of DNA samples from alleged perpetrators that are required by law. Rape kits and other DNA crime scene evidence are only as effective as the potential to find a match to those perpetrators whose genetic information had been uploaded into that federal DNA database. We have a number of cases that are unsolved because we don't have a hit in the system, is what TBI director said during a November presentation to the governor about the whole thing. They won't upload the information. When they get someone who's potentially been accused of this or they find them in the crime, they don't upload it. And then later when they're trying to find who's done these things, it just kind of escapes them and they kind of don't give a hot damn. That's what it is.